Hello, Facebook family, YouTube family, Instagram family, LinkedIn family. To all our social media audience, I want to thank you once again for tuning in. Today we have a very special guest. We have the president of International Home Marketing Group, Mr. Elliott Taube. Elliott, welcome to REC Insights.
Great, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here finally.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I kind of wanted to, REC Insights is really kind of founded on recapping what's happening in the city of Toronto. So it's kind of our local, on the ground review that kind of gives our audience, which is primarily investors. There are definitely some newsmakers in there, and there's some journalists in there that kind of pay attention to what we do and how we present our information, which is why I believe it's so key that we get people like yourself on this report to kind of give a bird's eye view of the development in the city and where our city is going. For those who don't know, your company is one of the biggest listing brokerages for developments. So you are a real estate broker. You're day in, day out in real estate. But to put that into perspective of the type of volume of real estate that goes through your company, give us a little bit of a perspective on that.
Okay, so International has been now around 26 years. We just started our 26 years. So anybody in that type of...
Congratulations.
Thank you. You know, it's been a lot of work and a long time coming. For us, we are primarily a new home brokerage. We are a full service brokerage. We can do the resale side, but we only really concentrate on new homes, supporting medium and large size developers all throughout the GTA, some parts of Canada, the States as well. On an average year, we transact $1.5 billion of real estate, sometimes more, and depending where the market goes, sometimes less. But that really seems to be, you know, our sweet spot, somewhere between $1 and $2 billion a year.
Right. And to put that into perspective, our company, my team, I should say, myself and Jas ran a team of about 40 agents that transact anywhere between 600 and 800 transactions a year, for about $250 million a year. In the regular real estate world, puts us actually, last year we ranked third in the entire nation. So now when we're listening to $1 billion to $2 billion, that's a boutique firm that you run, which represents new home sales in the country. So it's not the traditional Royal LePage or Remax or Century 21 sense of doing things. You list entire developments.
Correct.
When we list an entire development, and we obviously work together because so we represent your regular buyer, investor, people who are looking to make their home, etc. And you're going to be listing a project for a developer. Let's we don't need to name developers, but any AYZ developer in central Mississauga, for example. You guys just have launched a magnificent big project in Mississauga, and I think we should actually name it. You guys had just launched Camross Exchange District.
Correct. We did Exchange District 1, first tower, 60 stories, 596 units in the building, and predominantly sold out. Just a little bit of stuff left there. So that's, you know, in essence, I am the seller's, you know, agent who's listing it.
Right. So I think the insight that you can bring to us is these developments change entire cities or neighborhoods at the very least. They actually form a neighborhood. Like we watch a neighborhood come alive in many cases. What kind of impact in your career of 25 years with just this company, what kind of impact have you seen these developments make in communities?
Well, it's huge. And first, I just want to correct you on that matter. So, I mean, I've been in real estate now, it's coming up towards 30 years. The last 12 years I've spent with International Home Marketing Group. So I did not start my career here. I actually started more on the grassroots side, resale, moved into new housing with one of the larger builders in the GTA, spent 10 years with them, and then kind of moved over to International 12 years ago. We do have a huge impact. I mean, for me, when I look around cities and I can point to various buildings that have changed the landscape, and have such, a pride in knowing that we had a big part in this. In the design work, working with the developers and their architects, the ad companies which create these beautiful brochures and sales offices and the renderings, and right through to making sure that they get built for the developers. And looking up in the sky and seeing people populate them, it's a phenomenal feeling. And not only do we do that for the high-rise side, we do that on the low-rise. So we've, changed countrysides and farm properties into these whole bustling neighborhoods.
Yeah.
The province.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I remember back in '08, I got married in '09, but in '08, sorry, it was '09 when my wife, who was my fiance at the time, we drove out to Oakville to Bronte Creek, and that was a Fernbrook and Mattamy community, and Brainhaven community, and it was fields. Yeah. And we bought, and I remember back then we bought it for half. It was dead on half. It was $499 for a 3,200 square foot home. $499, and they put in $40,000 of incentive. It was right at the crash. Yeah. The market was shaky. It was a funny time. And I remember they're like, okay, well, let's go take a look at your lot. And I said, okay, let's go take a look at my lot. And like, we're literally like, it was after work I had gone, and I was working in the banking industry downtown, and I had come up with my $60 Aldo black leather shoes at the time. And when I walked out, I walked back into my truck, there was this much mud. Yeah. Like I remember it like it was yesterday. And then that, of course, we had our first child there, and we only moved out of there when my wife was pregnant with her second. So this was a bustling schools, Catholic schools, playgrounds, people everywhere. And you've seen this, I'm assuming, a million different times.
Quite a few different times. I mean, it's funny because, you talk about fields and forests, like you go into the trunk of my car, you'll find a pair of rubber boots and work boots, and how many communities and subdivisions watching them get built, how many flat tires I've had in the course of my life.
Construction sites. Yeah. So with that being said, the buyer, it always seems like people think that they don't have much say in the kind of buildings that get built. And to the contrary, what I have noticed the most is because we represent the buyers, like I represent buyers all the time. If we come up to a development and we come into your sales office tomorrow morning, we look through the floor plans and the amenities. And if your developer did not do what the client wants and is looking for, they're going to be sitting on a flop. Yeah. The chances of that happening are slim because you're involved. So I want to talk about a little bit about what you bring to the developer. So why does a developer reach out to you and your expertise to build and consult a community?
Well, I think what it comes down to is the fact that when you represent so many different developers in so many different places, it allows you to learn from everybody's mistakes along the way. Plus, we have such, a vested interest in the whole market and how it's doing that we learn. So we do take those lessons, that plans that we couldn't sell, or the comments that are coming in on the floor, or what the clients really want. And then walking through these houses as they're being built or being developed, seeing what's being utilized or underutilized, and make those changes all along the way. When you're dealing as a developer who's like single-sited and has the one site, some of our clients have multiple sites, so they have a little bit more expertise, but they do rely on us for what that market intel is. What we couldn't do for a certain developer down the road will help us decide what we're going to do in this community.
No doubt, no doubt. That's awesome. What do you see coming down the pipe for Toronto real estate? And I want to just focus a little bit for the city of Toronto specifically. I was involved in a few sales and developments in the last 4 months, notably in the Yorkville sector, notably in the kind of the lower east side of Toronto, that whole Corktown district. Broccolini has some major development happening down there right now. There's a few that are set to launch. The Unilever site is getting prepped to launch a few projects. There's so much on the go down there. And I'm not sure if you heard yesterday specifically, related developments. The company that we interviewed when we were in New York last year, along with Oxford, are just released. The news release came out that Hudson, not Hudson Yards, Union. What is it called? Not Union Yards. Union.
Yeah, the area just adjacent to the convention center.
Just adjacent. So there's a 4-acre site there that's going to be a mega development in a park.
Oh, it's massive. It's massive.
The well just launched by Tridel and by all their allied group, and all those things are happening downtown. What is your take on what's taking place downtown right now?
Well, I mean, we're personally involved in a multitude of sites that are going to open up right throughout the downtown core. You know, on the east end towards the beach, like Queen and Coxwell, to the west end, in the Taube, and, you know, in many centers. There's a ton of stuff, absolute ton of stuff. I mean, we're actively probably working on 3,000 to 4,000 units that will come to the market through different developers over the next 18 months. Even just the fall alone for us. Everybody thinks I get to take the summer off. It's the fall launch. Just because we're not launching much in the summer doesn't mean that we can stop working. So we're getting ready for the fall, which is massive for us, absolutely massive. And that's just our company. You know, there's the developers who do it in-house. There's the developers who use all of our, you know, friends who are competition to us, and we are very friendly to each other. There's a lot of business.
Yeah, it's a very small family, so
it really is.
Yeah, and we all need each other. That's for damn sure. It's not even a matter of even talking about it. Like, we need each other every day to draw the mistakes from what happened over there. You know what I mean? Was it successful? Did you have lineups? Why? You know, like where, and what's the heartbeat on the market? Yeah. So tell me what your vision is for Toronto. Like, what do you think is happening in Toronto? To the investor watching right now, you're saying 3,000 to 4,000 units are coming on for sale in the next 18 months.
Well, that's really just through us. So, I mean, the typical year for Toronto between, you know, and we call it the GTA, for low rise and high rise is, you know, 30 to 40,000 units. We always kind of sit in there. You know, we've peaked at 37, close to 40,000 units. We've dropped down. So that, I think, is going to continue, but I do see, you know, that investors, and especially with your guidance, have to really pick and choose where they're going. And I think the sales cycle is going to revert back to a more normalized pace. You know, we used to go to market and developer would give us 9 months, 12 months, 15 months to get to their pre-construction targets. Those 15-month turnarounds have turned into 15 days of late with some fury out there. But I think we're going to see a much more normalized marketplace. I also think that you know, savvy investor has to look for those jewels in the rough. You know, hindsight is 2020. You know, you talk about broccolini and stuff. You know, who would have ever thought Regent Park would have gone the way it did? Leslieville, you were afraid to walk through there at night at one point. The West End.
Remember Dundas and Jones area?
Yeah, wouldn't get out of my car. I wouldn't get out of my car. And now I can't even afford to buy a house down there. Yeah. I look at the West End, the Junction, Corso Italia, those type of neighborhoods as really like jewels in the rough. You know, you just came back from New York. I mean, everybody used to talk Brooklyn. I'll never go to Brooklyn. I would, and now you can't even get into Brooklyn. No. So there are pockets within the city that are Brooklyn to Manhattan kind of versions. And, you know, we've just watched that.
What's the site that you have in the Junction right now?
Reunion Crossing.
So that actually got my attention. That's a cool project. And by no means am I promoting the site. This is a conversation. But what I want to discuss is, to me, that's a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
So Reunion Crossing, let's talk about what makes a site great for investors. And we can talk, because so let me put it out there. There's multiple sites in the direct corridor. There is Scout, there is Stockers, there's East Junction, there is Reunion Crossing. What makes this neighborhood unique, and why would it be a good investment, for example, to somebody to invest in that neighborhood?
Okay. Well, first off, you know, there's been a lot of articles of late on what they call the missing middle, or great opportunities or being able to get into the market. Downtown at this point now has, we always had these glass ceilings that went up. I remember when $700 a foot, we couldn't get through. And then it was 800. We did 1,000 with Nobu a couple of years ago, and people thought that was stupid. And now it's
I'm one of the buyers at Nobu.
I know.
Hey, thank God.
I know. Again, I wish I could have had a floor. But you're looking at product now, and all those projects, which are great in that area, are in that $800 a square foot range, $850. They are affordable. They allow people to get into the market, and the rents translate really well. So where you may be spending $1,200 a foot as an investor, you're getting similar rents buying something at $850, because still rent throughout the city is pretty constant, unless you're talking the Yorkvilles and, Young and Blue are on the waterfront, those really special pockets. Those rents are out there. And I think capital appreciation, it's much easier for a site at $850 to move to $1,000 a foot, $1,100 a foot, than a $1,500 a foot site to get to $2,000. So that, I think, is really important. There's great incentives for buyers in those type of projects as well. Deposits tend to be easier because they are considered to be a little rougher or grittier or up and coming. But you got transit in those areas.
On the way up.
Yeah. You've got everything in the city, like from those, and whether, again, you talked about Scoop and Stockyards, and us with Reunion. Jump on the streetcar and you're down at the subway at no time. Get down to the waterfront, and the amenities are just changing. Restaurants are coming in. When the Starbucks started looking at those neighborhoods, when you see all the factories going out. So I'm bullish on that area, especially when it allows somebody to get into the marketplace. And an investor also, because what I've found really difficult for investors of late is, we have moved into that $1,200 or more square foot thing. Our units, we can't make them any smaller than we really do. We've microsized this city as much as we can. So when you're talking about 500, 600 square foot units at $1,200 a foot, and you're now $750 end price versus something that's $850, those deposits, a 15-20% deposit, is a big number in being able to qualify. So it just leaves room and money on the table for the investor.
So what I think, and I want to get back to what you just said, because the biggest problem, for me as a broker, I can give you some feedback right now, and this speaks to our entire audience. Right now, the number one problem, I was working on a site, a beautiful site, so AAA location, AAA builder, AAA everything. I put together 7 or 8 deals. No, 7. We submitted 7 deals. We had 8 people in the go. I submitted 7 deals. And these are all clients. Like, our clients aren't people that we don't know, or we're talking from people from the internet. These are all VIP clients, qualified people that understand what they're doing. They come in, they see the project, fall in love, everything's perfect. And the project was earmarked at just under $1,500 a month, $1,500 a foot. Yeah. Getting through the due diligence, lawyer's remarks, pass. Everything pass. Last 2 days of rescission period. The number one feedback, and this has never happened to me. There was a few people that had some pretty extreme circumstances happen to them, which I understand. That's fine. It's a one-off. But the fear of an $800,000 purchase set in. These are people who are all multi-transactional clients. They've bought real estate before. This isn't their first rodeo. But spending $800K or $750K on a 550 square foot floor plan got to them. Yeah. So sticker shock is still very evident in the city. Yeah. So I think there's always a time period for the consumer in the actual, whether they're investor or end user, to be able to swallow that pill, to get through their bank. So they go to their bank, and their wealth advisor, who's writing this pre-approval, is saying, what's going on here? The wealth advisor, the mortgage broker, is not caught up yet to the market. And this is a real issue. So whether the guy makes enough money to support himself and go through this purchase, whether the rental makes sense, and it's 100%, it's black and white. The rents are almost there already in those specific areas. to support the ticket price.
Yeah.
So the actual development is not overpriced. The area is AAA. Everything is going, but the consumer is still cannot swallow that pill of that the core city is at $1,500 at this point, $1,500 a foot. So when we see projects like the Junction, like we're going to see on the eastern side at $800 a foot, I think they're only 3 to 4 years behind that 1,200 mark.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, so I really think so. If the question was, where do I invest today, Elliott?
Yeah.
Which areas specifically in the city would you say are winners?
I think anything under $1,000 that is 416 transit oriented is a winner. I think the 905 in certain areas, and we've watched, the Vaughns of the world, PMC, Mississauga, downtown core, which are all, selling at that $800, $900 level and getting similar rents, they're great. Anytime you can be along the Yonge Street transit corridor, you're always going to win. Yonge and Shepherd, Yonge and Eglinton, Yonge and St. Clair, all the way down to the city. Waterfront is great. But yeah, I think you have to look more so at that dollar per square foot and what it's translating to rent. And, it's interesting when you say the rents have caught up. I think we've caught up somewhat, but not quite enough that there is shock there, because $1,500 a foot is really $7 in rent, $7 a foot in rent, and not every site is going to get that. So you really have to look at that. Before, rents always did make sense. So a guy bought a unit. If he was going to flip it, that was one thing. But if he was going to keep it, he was up $100. He was down $100 a month. Now we really have to look at where those differentials are. The other thing for the consumer out there to understand that even if they think a site's not worth $800 or $900, a developer has to sell it for that, because our hard costs, our construction costs, the city bureaucracy that holds us up for 2 years, 3 years on being able to launch. So all those fees and things that have kicked in from interest and financing, the soft costs, development charges, park levies, everything that goes in there. Like if a developer, and assuming the land was free, which it's not,
not at all,
$700-800 a foot, it makes no sense to build it. So if you're actually buying product in that price range, you're getting it as close to cost as you can. Let's not say it's at cost, because everybody should make money. And most times the client is making more money as a practical return than the developer. The overall number is different, but the rate of return has been a lot stronger for the developers.
So here's a scary question. I was at a private capital networking event about a month and a half ago. It was the Go Real conference, downtown Toronto. There were some real big guys there. Some CEOs of some very large development companies. CFO of Manulife was there. So there's some really good insight. And I asked a question, and I did get a decent answer. It was, I think it was the president of Greywood Developments that I asked the question to. I don't quote me on it. I don't know if it was their CFO or if it was their CEO. Greywood, and those are the guys behind Scoop and Scout down in the Junction, actually. And they're a fantastic group. I asked him what some client, like I had a conversation with some clients. So basically it went down like this. I'm with my clients. I tell them this is the project. It's ABC. It's priced at $1,100 a foot. What do you think? Da, 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 da. These are the rents. These are the rents. They're like, Simeon, how can you tell me that this is going to go up? Well, I said, this is phase 1 of 4 in the area. And there's 2 more developers coming in with another 2-3 phase projects. So I said, do you believe that the next developer, the next phase, can be priced less than what you're paying here today? So this was my natural instinct, using common sense of math progression. Prices go up, labor goes up. You want to call it inflation, you want to call it the natural course of life with costs going up. But I had just used as a sales tool the rising cost of construction, our city's greed with development charges, and trying to take a piece to actually normalize a price point. Do you believe that that almost acts as kind of like protection that just because the costs are going up, it's going to be impossible to build more at a lesser price? Do you think it's a hedge against pricing going down?
Did he answer that question, or you want me to answer that one?
Well, I will tell you what he answered. So he answered, of course, it's not a hedge. He said the market could fall apart tomorrow, and the developers are going to be sucking on their thumb, licking their wounds in a market that won't be able to support it.
Yeah.
But on the same token, he said, based on the fundamentals that we know about our market of 150,000 pouring in per year, our inability to build faster because there's only so much construction crews available, that kind of controls the supply coming into the market. The answer is yes. So that is going to serve as a hedge. But his answer, fundamentally, he said, you should never take that as a market indicator. But in reality and practically inside our city, that, you could probably feel pretty safe about construction costs going up and the cost going up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hate to really flip that on the head because I am trying to protect, prices, but let's look at our low-rise side of the business. I know you
Sure.
spend a lot more time in the high-rise, but our low-rise, when the government made those changes, has completely turned around. We're probably down, from the peak of 17, when it all of a sudden just stopped, and we've reduced pricing, anywhere from 15 to 20%, and in some cases more on certain sites. We were launching projects with lineups out the door. We were selling without giving out price lists. When somebody said, how much is that house? We just had to look and say, the last one sold for X, this is going to be X plus 50. And we watched that fall apart. And the low-rise market had basically stalled for the last 15 months until certain developers said, you know what, I got to keep this machine going. I'm willing to take a little bit less. And they reset the market, so lower prices. So you're actually buying, low-rise right now. And if you want to talk to investors about the time to jump back into low-rise, this is the time, because
This is the 08.
Yeah.
This is the 08 of low-rise.
I think we found the bottom in low-rise, and we're watching now, sites open, and we've successfully sold. Our, competitors have sold, and it's at a price that is, depending on the actual neighborhoods, could be $50,000 less than it was before, or $300,000 less than it was in 17. So this is a great low-rise, environment and opportunity for people to invest in. And I think we've actually found the peak or the ceiling in high-rise. And not that it's not going to go higher. It's always going to go higher. History teaches us it's always going to go higher. But it may stall for a while, and it may reset a little. Some guys have come out and jumped the mark, and we've seen projects, and I'll never name anything.
Of course.
Like it, but don't get the traction that they need. Will come up with inventive ways of resetting the price, or they'll stall, they won't get built, and they'll relaunch at a different level. So,
well, the market definitely has ways of teaching us lessons. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. And I think that's why these conversations, to me, are so crucial and important. And I appreciate so much having a guy like you take the time to go over these things. Our audience, every time the response is fantastic, and I'll definitely let you know some of the feedback. In closing, Elliott, is there any remarks, any tips you want to just give the general investor out there? I know you really went, I think you gave us a really golden tip about the low-rise market. Is there anything else that you see out there that you think our audience would benefit from directly?
And again, I mean, I think it is the time to jump back into low-rise. If you're diversifying your real estate portfolio, or if you're an end user looking to make that move, this is the time to be back in low-rise. And there's some great projects coming out. In high-rise, I think the real key to any investors, and you guys handle it so well, and following your career, and you and I've had a few offline conversations. My history started with your brokerage a long time ago. So I feel we really go back in the kindred spirit. But it's having that trusted partner, that broker who can guide you to the right project, who also has the connections and the ability to get in at day one. And if he wants to sell you anything, if the broker says, "Oh yeah, that's the greatest project," or "I'll get you in," you know, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. It's the
Get out, run.
yeah. You know what? Maybe here's the pros to this one, and I agree, and here's the cons, and let's look at A, B, C, and D, and let's make that informative choice. And so the client really has to trust who's guiding them there, who's going to get them the best access.
And I really do think that is the only reason that the real estate industry has not been disrupted per se, like any other industry. That trust factor when you're spending this kind of money, it's just you're not buying something out of the box that's standardized and commoditized. You have to be so careful and use so much diligence and caution when making these decisions and who you choose to work with and why. Thankfully, like we're surrounded, like really, like getting to the point that I am today. I'm forever grateful for all the people that mentored me and every connection that I have. But standing where we do today, we are really in great company. Like that top 50, top 100 people that I interact with every day who are my competitors, I have so much respect for, because if you look, when they say the cream rises to the top, and I'm not by any means trying to make myself look good, I'm saying like you'd never see that bullshit, for a lack of a better word, around me. Yeah. So every time we walk into a platinum launch with your company or any other company, there's always those same 20, 30, 40 people, and you're not going to be there year in, year out, 10 and 15 years in the making if you're a shifty guy who sells real estate. You're a guy who needs to provide value. And I mean, and I want to, only because this was supposed to be 15 minutes and we're down the 45-minute route, I want to really thank you for providing value to me. Thank you for providing value to our REC company and brokers. Thank you for providing value to every single one of our audience who will take something away from here and hopefully use it to make an informed decision.
It's such a pleasure. I have one more. Can I throw one more?
Yes, you may.
Because I was just thinking in closing is, if I was looking at high rise, I think I would now start looking at product that differentiates itself from the rest of the market. You can go to 50 different buildings and buy 50 different 500, 600 square foot plans. I think this city is got to move towards end user product more so. Livable suite, you can live in 500 square feet. We 2
and 3 bedroom units, man.
Yeah. So if you can, and it's going to be a bigger price point. There's no doubt about that. But again, when there's 50 different, 500 square foot units for sale in a core, and then there's one that's more livable, I think that's a key as well. And I'm excited. We're working on some projects that are more livable as well, not just investor driven. And so I'd keep my eyes out for that type of product.
Well, I actually can't wait to see it. I'm sure the fall is going to be a great time to launch. I think people are going to be taking the break to do some homework and kind of see and feel out where the market's going. With mortgage rates dropping yet again, I think we're going to be in for a pretty hot fall, to be honest with you. So I think we're going to take the time, and I'm speaking for myself and my partner, Jas, and it's very possible, Elliott, I was speaking with Jas earlier on just the fact that you're coming on today, and he actually wants to bring you on for the actual REC Experience podcast as well, which dives in a lot more into some of your leadership feats and advice, and a more well-rounded conversation, not just real estate. So I can't wait to see you around for the REC Experience. And thank you again for all the invaluable advice, man. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. I look forward to it.
Thank you so much. Everyone, thanks for watching the REC Insights. Take care.